Welcome back to Loftside Bantr. On today's episode, we're doing our NFL Draft Preview Special. We're not going to go over the entire draft, as that would take hours upon hours. So we're going to go look at the top 5 who I think is going to be in that top 5. We won't do too many trades or anything else like that. We'll explore some trade options. We'll go a little in-depth with the New England Patriots, as that is my favorite team. And then I'll look at some prospects who I think are going to make big impacts on teams and have good NFL careers. I'll look at some sleepers, and then we'll go into some regular NFL news. Loftside Bantr fans, you can listen to this podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, YouTube. You can reach out to me at Loftside Bantr, that's BANTR, at gmail.com, and visit www.loftsidebanter.com. Now sit back and enjoy the show.
You play to win the game.
We can't be responsible for the blocking. We can't be responsible for the guys jumping offside.
I'm getting all the damn heat with everybody, each and every one of y'all hammering my tail.
I want winners. I want people that want to win. Go ahead. What's up next?
Welcome into Loftside Bantr. Today's episode is the NFL Draft Preview, one of my favorite sporting events. Seeing who the new players coming out of college will be, what your team will pick, and how franchises change with the picks that they make. It's a very exciting time for the NFL. This is really kind of the big start to that offseason. Obviously, we've had some free agent signings already, but these are the kind of plans and the hope that fans have is based upon who their teams pick in this upcoming draft. Obviously, it starts Thursday with the first round at 8 p.m. Eastern Time. There's been a lot of speculation with who's going to go where, what teams are going to do, so we'll get into some of the big questions now. The first big question for this NFL draft is, how is this quarterback class going to shake out? Now, it seems as if Cam Ward is going to be the number 1 overall pick, the quarterback out of Miami. Now, Cam Ward was a 0-star recruit coming out of high school. Now, he was recruited to Division II Incarnate Wood. He played between 2020 and 2021, obviously a 6-game year that first year for COVID. Won the Jerry Rice Award for the best freshman in Division II. Sophomore season, threw for 4,600 yards, 47 touchdowns, was the Southland Conference Offense Player of the Year. Ended up transferring to Washington State for a couple of years, played really well there as well, and then eventually transferred for his senior year to the University of Miami. They ended up finishing the year 13th overall. He finished 4th in the Heisman, threw for over 4,300 yards. Had a little controversy at the end for the Cheez-Its Bowl, everybody's favorite bowl game, where he only played the first half and then didn't play the second half. Now, we've seen it a lot more in college football where players are protecting themselves towards the end of the year. Obviously, a big injury really affects your draft position. Not something I necessarily agree with. All of this goes hand in hand with the NIL and everything else like that. Keeping players healthy and protecting the investment, which is themselves, going into the next level where they're going to make a ton of money. Not that they're making little money in the NIL days now. I don't know what he made at Miami, but he was offered money to go there. But it looks like he's going to be number 1. The Tennessee Titans are going to pick him number 1. It's a great story going from a 0-star recruit, starting in Division II, and then getting up to, obviously, the starter at the University of Miami, and now the number 1 pick. That seems the direction they're going to go. It was very funny that Cam Ward was on streaming one night, was asked what his favorite wide receivers were in the league, and he listed Justin Jefferson and the normal ones, but then he was putting in Tennessee Titan players as his favorite that may not be up in the upper echelon of the NFL quite yet. Not saying they can't get there, but Treylon Burks is not a top 5 receiver. At least he hasn't been the first few years. And then as for best running backs, he only listed the 2 Titans running backs. So it's a pretty bad secret that he's going number 1. I'd be surprised if he didn't go number 1, because I don't think this quarterback class is the greatest out there. I used a lot of the PFF.com big boards. I've used a couple of different sources to kind of look at the different boards. So again, these aren't my numbers, but Cam Ward's rated about the 20th best prospect in the draft. Now, obviously, as a need as a quarterback, your quarterback is the most important position. If you feel that he's your guy, go get him. So him going number 1 is not my concern. After that, you have Shedeur Sanders, who has been dropping steadily in these big boards. Shedeur Sanders just had his number retired at the University of Colorado, which is a little weird to me, especially where his dad, Deion Sanders, is the head coach. Again, not my call. They don't ask me about any of this. But again, he's been dropping steadily. We've heard attitude issues where he seemed like he didn't care in interviews. Again, I think he's probably going to still go in that top 10 range. I think the Saints really need a quarterback at 9 with Derek Carr now hurt again. I love the New Orleans Saints. If it's a person you think is going to make your team better and give you that most important position and not be a hindrance, because if you select a quarterback and he doesn't work out that early on, you set your franchise back years. But he's up there at probably the second. PFF has him ranked as the 45th best prospect, then jumps all the way to 100 to Jalen Milroe. Will Howard's after that, Ohio State's quarterback. Riley Leonard from Notre Dame. Jackson Dart has been going up the list. He's at 131, but he's the Ole Miss quarterback. Those are really your top 5, top 6 quarterbacks right now. And then the rest of them are, they're going to be later in the draft. Quinn Ewers is going to be later in that draft. Kyle McCord, the former Ohio State quarterback, was at Syracuse last year. Curtis Rourke from Indiana. Brady Cook, very injured player through Missouri this year. So, these guys are going to be later in the draft. Some of them are probably not going to get drafted. So, this quarterback class is not life-changing unless it's Cam Ward right now, at least at what the experts are telling you. And I think Cam Ward's going to be a good quarterback. I think Shedeur Sanders will eventually shake out and be a very good quarterback. It just depends what situation he goes to. Another team that's really looking to decide what they're doing within these quarterback issues is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Are they going to get Aaron Rodgers? Are they not? It's been a lot of back and forth. We have heard that this is probably going to happen, yet it hasn't happened yet. Obviously, Aaron Rodgers has no problem throwing the Jets under the bus, which delights me. But at the same point in time, what are they going to do? Are they going to trade up? Are the Saints going to trade up? Where do they go to try to get that quarterback? Do two quarterbacks go in the first 4 or 5 picks? The Giants went out and signed 2 quarterbacks this offseason, and they're still considering drafting one in the top 5. Obviously, the Daniel Jones experiment did not work whatsoever. Goes back to my point of, if you draft a quarterback high and he doesn't work out, you set your franchise back a few years. Daniel Jones was one of that. They gave him extra money. They put him out there. They built around him, and he still didn't do well. And it was one of those things that you watch them on Hard Knocks last year, and what they decided to do, instead of giving money to Saquon Barkley, they decided to put it in other positions where they needed to, really improve. And look what happened. Daniel Jones wasn't the answer. Kind of looking at running backs now, Ashton Gentry is the consensus best running back in the draft. I've heard a lot of Patriots fans say they want a running back like that and that he should go 4th. Does that really help what you have right now? I think your attention still needs to be offensive line or wide receiver, but I wouldn't be disappointed in that. The only thing is, what do you do with your current running backs like Ramondre Stevenson and Antonio Gibson? Those two are obviously your 1-2. Gibson's more of your third down, screen pass running back. And Stevenson, who had fumble troubles last year. Now, can you associate that with the offensive line? Don't know. Omarion Hampton from North Carolina, and then Trayvon Henderson, Quinshon Judkins, both from Ohio State. And then Cam Scatterbro is that guy from Arizona State that everybody loved in the playoff games, that had a great year last year, is kind of an X factor one. Again, somebody I wouldn't mind seeing in a Patriots uniform. Now, as for those wide receivers as well, Tate McMillan from Arizona, Matthew Golden has gotten himself up there to the mid-first round. Jaden Higgins, Iowa State. Luther Burden from Missouri's in that conversation. Jack Beck from TCU was the MVP of the Senior Bowl, I believe. And he was the one that had his brother tragically pass away in that New Year's Eve attack where somebody drove through Bourbon Street. So he's got a story that's behind him as well. Jalen Royals, Utah State. Kyle Williams, kind of that top 10 area for wide receivers. Now, the offensive tackle position we're expecting to see the Patriots kind of look at that at number 4. Armand Membo from Missouri, I hope I said that right, has kind of put himself in the top spot for offensive tackles. He's a left tackle that has played well the last few years. Will Campbell was the consensus number 1 offensive tackle going into the draft coverage. Now he seems to be kind of that 1A, maybe 2. A lot of talk over his arm length and whether or not that's going to be a huge factor. We always do this with the draft. We always look at these metrics and it's like, does that really matter at the end of the day? Either you can play or you can't play. Speed and strength and footwork and now arm length seems to be always kind of the conversation. I wouldn't be disappointed if they took Will Campbell at 4. I actually think they're probably still going to. I just think that we look at so much and everything's so analyzed. And then we try to look back and go, oh, we told you so, we told you this, we told you that. Josh Simmons, who was injured, the Ohio State offensive tackle, is probably that 3rd. Calvin Banks, 3rd, 4th range from Texas. Josh Cornely Jr. from Oregon is probably that top 5 of the offensive tackles. There's a couple of Boston College players in there. Ozzie Trapilo is there, and then some more interior linemen. I really like Anthony Belton from NC State. He's kind of in that top 10 offensive tackle range. Later pick, but I think he can be a good offensive tackle. Interior lineman, guard, center. The Patriots need to look at those as well, probably later in the draft. If it were me and I was in charge of the Patriots, which obviously I am not, I would almost think about trading down from 4 and recuperating a lot of picks. And I don't know how many you can get. You're probably going to get 2 or 3 to trade down, probably to that 10 range, 9-10 range. So I think the Saints and the Patriots probably could make something work. The extra picks that you're going to get, you're going to have to throw bodies on this offensive line. They're not as in bad of shape as they were with the pickups that they made. Obviously, they picked up Morgan Moses on that right side, a good veteran for that. They picked up Garrett Bradbury, who's the center that came over from Minnesota after they cut him. He struggled last year. Ben Brown didn't play bad for how bad the offensive line was. I thought he came in and played pretty well, and now he's kind of your backup for that position. The only way that you don't move that pick, in my opinion, is if either Travis Hunter gets to you, which I believe Travis Hunter is going to go to. Cleveland, the Browns need as much help as they can get. They still have Deshaun Watson. They picked up Kenny Pickett, and they also brought back Joe Flacco. So I don't think quarterback is a need for them, unless they're planning on moving Deshaun Watson, which I don't know who would want him. Now, they restructured his deal. They could probably give him one more chance to be the starter. But I think a name like Travis Hunter really works for the Browns, and I'll go into that when we get into the top 5 picks that I think are there. But I would move down if I were them. And then just, you got to throw bodies on this offensive line and see what sticks. If Abdul Carter's there at 4, take him. I think that with Milton Williams and the people that you have picked up, Harold Landry and everybody else like that, I think that makes your defensive line so good. That's only if those players are there. If they're not, then we have to kind of consider that, unless you feel that the number 4 pick as the offensive lineman or wide receiver is going to be a true number 1 left tackle or wide receiver. So that's what I would do as the Patriots. Again, those are kind of some prospects and stuff like that. Obviously, Abdul Carter is the best edge player out there. James Pierce Jr. from Tennessee was supposed to be like the number 1 overall pick. a couple of years ago or last year, and he struggled this year. He was a little injured. He's dropped to about third or fourth on that edge rusher list. If the Patriots picked him up in the second round or an early second round pick for him, I don't know if he's going to make it that far, because I think Abdul Carter, Mykal Williams from Georgia, James Pierce Jr., and then Mike Green are probably your first round picks. Now, who knows how many of them are going to go and when? Obviously, things change throughout the draft process, and there's going to be trades. We all know there's going to be trades. There's going to be a whole bunch of different front office trying to make things happen. It depends on what those are. The second story of this NFL draft is how many teams will actually want to trade up. The blue chip talent in this draft is perceived to be lower. It's perceived to be not as deep as it normally is. There's a lot more questions on a lot of the prospects. The intrigue for this draft is anything from round 2 to round 4. That you can still get high quality talent between that round 2 and 4. So position like quarterback, maybe offensive lineman. There's a lot of quality like wide receivers as well that you can still find some good talent. So I think that's why I foresee the Patriots making those moves kind of more towards that second round. A lot of these other teams. Now, the other thing you have to keep in mind as these teams that are looking for multiple things is teams trading up to find those talents at the early second round, early third round, whatever the case may be. If you have somebody identified, you got to go get them. That's typically what most of these teams will do. I've already kind of brought it up, and I realize I talk a lot about the New England Patriots being a Massachusetts-based, podcast. Will the Patriots finally prioritize that offense at number 4? Or will they look at Abdul Carter if he drops or anybody else? Like I said, they made the pickups kind of on the offensive line, and they got Stephon Diggs later in free agency. Is he going to be able to come back from injury? Now, what do they possibly pick up at number 4? Or do they look to trade down? That's kind of the first real pick that these exciting things could happen. Now, I'd like to look at the top 5 selections. And I got my fancy list here. And I'm going to go down what I think should happen, could happen in those top 5 picks. Now, I didn't really consider trades. Everybody stayed pat and took who I think were the best available for them. The Tennessee Titans have the first overall pick. And as we discussed earlier, Cam Ward is probably going to be that pick. If he was saying all the Tennessee Titan players were the best in the league and they have the number 1 pick, it made it very obvious where everything was going to kind of lean. But again, I believe he's a franchise quarterback. I believe he's going to have a very good career. So this is a great pick for them. The Will Levis experiment did not work. So Cam Ward out of Miami is going to be that pick. I also mentioned earlier the Cleveland Browns had the second pick. They should go with Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter is the best athlete in the draft. He covers 2 positions that they need help at, wide receiver and cornerback. He's obviously out of Colorado by way of Jackson State, both Deion Sanders schools that he coached. The Browns need a player that can cause excitement and be very, very good. Now, obviously, he has a lot of expectations behind him, but Travis Hunter, the Cleveland Browns need to make this pick. And if they decide to go with Abdul Carter and really make that defensive line that much stronger after they went through the whole thing with Myles Garrett, that's not a bad pick, but I think Travis Hunter is that pick. In which case, then the Giants went out and signed Jameis Winston and then Russell Wilson. So they have 2 quarterbacks that has starting experience in this league. Both, I believe, Russell Wilson's on his 14th NFL season, Jameis Winston on his 11th. So they have 2 quarterbacks. I would love for them to take Shedeur Sanders here and make a quarterback of the future. Tommy DeVito is the 3rd quarterback that's on there. Obviously, he started a few games as well. I think they're going to go Abdul Carter and really create a good defensive line that can cause a lot of terror in the backfields of all their opponents next season. So I think Abdul Carter is their pick there, which means the Patriots at 4. Again, not really looking at any trades. I think the Saints, the Bears, and the Colts are probably the first few teams that could trade up to possibly get Shedeur Sanders or something like that. I think the Patriots are going to go with Will Campbell if they don't trade down. Will Campbell, from everything that I'm hearing in the media and everything else, Mike Vrabel considers him a good day one starting left tackle. The short arms thing, again, I have no idea about any of that stuff, so we'll see what they do. But I think Will Campbell shoring up that blind side for Drake May is the best pickup they can make at this point with the people that are off the board. I would love to see Travis Hunter. Travis Hunter fills 2 voids that the Patriots could really use. Now, they went out and signed a cornerback. You can focus him on your wide receiver room. Put him with Stephon Diggs, put him with Kayshon Boutte, put him with Kendrick Bourne, and he immediately upgrades your wide receiver room. That's who I'd like to see. I think the Patriots made enough moves on that defensive line that Abdul Carter doesn't have to be a need, but again, if he falls, he's a really good defensive line talent that you can't pass up. Then I think the Jaguars at 5 are going to go with Mason Graham, the defensive tackle out of Michigan. Jaguars have a whole lot of holes on their team. And again, filling those trenches, offensive and defensive line, you can't really go wrong. Mason Graham has proven to be a elite defensive tackle in college. I think he's really going to help out that team as well. So that's my top 5. We'll look at a few of the other prospects that we have throughout the draft, and we'll keep this to kind of a shorter show, as this is kind of a special show to kind of go over the NFL draft. And then we have a couple of more shows that'll come out this week. There'll still be a regular show coming out on Saturday. That one will be the interview with Sal Lipoli Jr. from the Massachusetts Pirates of the Indoor Football League, which was a great interview. Nice 30-minute interview with him. He was very, very humble, very interesting to talk to, and it was very fun. I know I listed some by position a little bit earlier. We're going to go a little bit more in depth with which ones I think are the top in their position, or I think is going to have the best career, which one is a sleeper, and then which one I think is a bust. So quarterback-wise, I think personally the best career is probably going to come from Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart has really good timing, really good touch on his passes from 10 to 19 yards. I think giving him the best kind of situation is key. His pro comp is like Bo Nix. Bo Nix had a very good rookie year. I think that he has the ability to be kind of like that, probably a little bit better than Bo Nix, if I'm honest with you. Again, he is the quarterback out of Ole Miss. He rushed for 1,500 yards and 12 touchdowns in 3 seasons, so he has a good leg mobility as well. So I think he's going to have the best career out of anybody. I think a very close second, probably 1A, is Cam Ward, going number 1 overall. I think a sleeper in this class is Kyle McCord from Syracuse. He's rated about the 8th or 9th best quarterback on the board. I think he has the ability to be a starter in the NFL. He spent 3 seasons at Ohio State before transferring to Syracuse. He led FBS in passing yards per game and set the ACA single-season passing record with 4,779 yards in his lone season with Syracuse. He's an effective point guard type quarterback who can lead an offense. 4 Syracuse receivers finished the season with more than 60 catches, so he spreads the ball around really well. I think, again, it depends what situation he goes in. I would love to see the Patriots take a flyer on him late on, whereas they have a quarterback opening now that they traded Joe Milton. I think at Kyle McCord's best, he could probably be very close to a kind of a Derek Carr type of player. Now, Derek Carr obviously has dropped off quite a bit since he's left the Raiders and has injury issues. But I think at that kind of prime level, I think Kyle McCord has that ability. A bust out of this class, I'm not a huge fan of Jalen Milroe. I haven't been a fan of Jalen Milroe throughout his career at Alabama. I'm not the biggest Alabama fan to begin with. He's an inconsistent passer. He had 39 touchdowns and 17 interceptions over the 2 seasons that he started at Alabama. His 2024 season was particularly underwhelming to me, but he still showed how dangerous he can be as a runner. So he has the ability to kind of get out of the pocket and make things happen. I just don't think that he's a pocket passer in the NFL, where this league is a lot of throwing, a lot of passing yards, big play ability. There are quarterbacks that can do that and still run with their legs. He just has not shown it. I think it would be a mistake for him to go in the first round. I think there's a possibility that he does, but it would be late first round, early second round. I think past that, I think he's probably second day, round 3, round 4 guy. I think running back wise, Ashton Genty is the best player. I think he's going to go top 6, top 7 picks. I think clearly top 10. He had an amazing year. I think he's a workhorse of a running back. I think he kind of reminds me of Alvin Kamara a little bit too, where he can kind of catch the ball. I don't think he's as good as Alvin Kamara catching the ball, but I think he's explosive enough that he can be. He rushed for 2,600 yards, 2,601 yards to be exact, in 24, which is second behind Barry Sanders as a single season, which that's a great name to be with. So I think he's definitely going to be the best running back out of this class. The sleeper out of this class, I think probably he's still a top 5 running back in the draft. Caleb Johnson out of Iowa, 6'1", 224, big back, who rushed for a career high 1,537 yards and 21 touchdowns last year. He's an instinctive zone runner with great feel for what to stick his foot in the ground and get downhill. So he knows when to cut, when to run north and south. Iowa had a very good year with him being the lead back. He reminds me of kind of like a DeMarco Murray type runner. I think he's going to be a real sleeper in this running back class. And then kind of my bust, I think the running back out of Virginia Tech, Bashal Tutin. He's rated like 12th, 13th, 15th, somewhere in that range with where he is with the other runners. I just don't foresee him being a great running back in the NFL. I think he's going to be maybe on a roster, maybe a 5th round pick this year. He didn't excite me all that much. He's a transfer from North Carolina A&T. He rushed for 2,000 yards in 2 seasons at Virginia Tech. He had a great 10-yard split at the combine. He's averaging 18 yards a catch out of the backfield and everything else like that. There wasn't a ton to excite me about him. So again, he's rated kind of mid-table with running backs, and I don't think he's going to be a great pick. Wide receivers wise, I think the player that's going to have the best career, in all honesty, I think it's going to be Luther Burden III from Missouri. I think he's, an explosive upfield. He pulls away on his seam routes. He averages 12 yards per carry, so kind of reverses and everything else like that. He tracks the deep ball very well. His hands are a little bit small, but he doesn't drop many passes, which has been great. And then he kind of had a revolving door of quarterbacks this year for Missouri, so he didn't have the greatest of years. Stephon Diggs is a kind of a good comparison to him. I think he's going to have probably one of the better careers out of all these draft picks. I really like Tate McMillan. Matthew Golden's quick. He's a little small, but he's very quick. Jalen Knoll I really like, but I really like Jalen Royals too. I think Jalen Royals is probably 10th, 9th, 10th best. He's from Utah State, 6-foot wide receiver. He tied for the quickest 10-yard split regardless of position at the combine. His acceleration is instant. He breaks tackles. So I think he's gonna have a good career too. Sleeper wise, it's probably Jalen Royals. It's probably maybe Pat Bryant out of Illinois. He ranked third in receiving yards per game at 82 yards per game. He was tied for third in receiving touchdowns in the Big Ten. His 40 time was tied for the second slowest, but I think he's sure-handed. I think he makes really good catches. He tempos his routes really well. He doesn't drop many passes either. I like him as a later round type receiver. I also like players like Nick Nash from San Jose State. He'd always played really well for a bad team out there. There's a lot of different wide receivers that could be a sleeper. I think realistically, I'm not a huge Kyle Williams fan from Washington State. I think he's good. Don't get me wrong. Bust is tough to say, but I'm not. I think he's somebody that's going to struggle in his career. He ran well at the combine. He averaged 17 yards per catch this season, so he has that deep threat. But again, he's that number 10 right behind Jalen Royals. I'm just not a huge fan of his. I would not like to see the Patriots pick him. I'll back him if they do, but not my favorite. Tight ends. Tyler Warren is going to be the best tight end. He's going to go in the top 10. I think he's going to be amazing in the NFL. 6'6", 256. He was fun to watch at Penn State. I think he's going to have the best career. He's the number one overall rated tight end in the draft. And I think the Mason Taylor, who's the fourth rated tight end at LSU, is the first 100 reception, 1,000-yard tight end in LSU history. That's Jason Taylor, for all of you that remember Jason Taylor for the Miami Dolphins. That's his son, 6'5", 251. I think he's going to be a sleeper. I think he's going to be one of the top tight ends out of this class as well. And then Harold Fannin Jr. from Bowling Green, he's rated about the 7th best tight end. Not a fan. He led the FBS in receptions and receiving yards per game in 2024. In addition to playing at the Senior Bowl, he put up big numbers against Penn State and Texas A&M. Again, when you're a team like Bowling Green, you only have one weapon. You're gonna key on him. I hope he does well in the NFL, but I just don't see it right now. Tackle wise, offensive tackle, Josh Simmons, I think, was the most talented offensive tackle going into the season. He started 13 games at right tackle for San Diego State in 2022, 19 at left tackle at Ohio State the past 2 seasons. He missed most of 2024 after tearing a patella tendon and didn't work out of the combine, but he was the most talented offensive tackle. So injuries play a little bit of a key here, but I think he's going to have the best career. The sleeper, Ozzie Trapilo from Boston College, I think is a really good offensive tackle. He started 10 games at left tackle in 2022 and 24 games in right tackle over the past 2 seasons. I think he's really good. Boston College always produces great offensive linemen. And as I said before, I really like Anthony Belton from North Carolina State. I think he's going to have a really good career. He's a 3-year starting with left tackle who has strong Senior Bowl. He's about the 10th best offensive tackle in the draft. I think he should go higher than that. Interior lineman, it's tough. I think Tate Ratledge from Georgia, 6'7", 307, big boy. I think he's going to have a really, really good NFL career. I also like Jackson Slater from Sacramento State. He started 42 games at left guard and 2 games at left tackle. He's tied for the second most reps on the bench for the offensive lineman at the combine. I think he's a little small, 6'3", taller than me, obviously. But I think he's going to have a good career as well. Center-wise, Jared Wilson's going to be really good. Drew Kendall from Boston College is going to be really good as well. Jake Majors from Texas, I really like. I think he can run an offensive line, kind of like a point guard style, be able to pick out all those different things. I think he's going to be a really good center. Defensive tackle wise, Mason Graham's probably going to have the best career out of Michigan. And then Walter Nolan from Ole Miss is another really good prospect. Shamar Turner from Texas A&M is an effective hand fighter. He makes use for He makes it tough for blockers to get into his frame. He's a disruptive run defender, slips blocks. Really, really good defensive tackle. There's a lot of really good linebackers as well. Jalen Walker is going to be the first one off the board. Chris Paul Jr., not related to the basketball player in any way, shape, or form. Supposed to be really good for a later round. Jeffrey Bassa, I've heard great things about his solid run defender. I've also seen him cover really well in a lot of clips that I've been watching. Kobe King from Penn State is another one that I think will have a really good career. I'm not sold on Danny Stutzman. Haven't been sold on him watching Oklahoma. Oklahoma had a tough year this year. I was not sold on his abilities while watching those games. Edge rusher Abdul Carter is a once-in-generation talent. Will have the best career. Landon Jackson out of Arkansas. No edge rusher jumped higher, and only one jumped further. He's got a lot of physical gifts that are really, really good for this, really good for the NFL. Corners, Travis Hunter is the best corner. Will Johnson is going to be the second one off the board. Siobhan Ravel Jr. from ECU. I've heard a lot of good things about him. Again, he got hurt early on, didn't get to see a whole lot of him. You know, he's still a top 5 cornerback on the board. I really like Dorian Strong from Virginia Tech. He has a feel for route combinations. He gets his eyes on the quarterback and hunts the ball really well. He wraps up and limits production after the catch. He's a physical pass corner, a physical press corner who gets his hands on reroutes for receivers. He makes it tough for any receiver, really. He's kind of in that 15 to 20 range. Zy Alexander, another LSU product, really good. I like those two later on as kind of sleepers. Your safeties, Malachi Starks Jr. from Georgia, I think is going to have the best career. I really like Lathan Ransom from Ohio State. Again, about 10th on the board for safeties. Reads the quarterback really well, tracks the ball well, times his hits really well. He's fast, strong. He made 9 tackles for losses in the backfield, so he's a good run defender as well. Again, more of a later round guy, but I really think he's a sleeper for any team kind of in that 4th round look. I won't go into punters and kickers, considering there's about 6 of them total out of the 2 positions. I think the Patriots are probably going to pick one with only 1 kicker on the roster right now. I think they need some competition there. So again, the NFL, I've gone over a lot of different types of players. I really am interested to see what transpires within that first top 5 as far as trades and everything else like that. I think that the ability for the top 5 to go any which direction can change quite a bit. I like that we kind of know who number 1 is. Probably definitely going to be Cam Ward. And then from there, it can kind of go different directions. The Browns and the Giants now have enough quarterbacks on the roster to go forward with. Do they utilize that? Do they still draft one for the future? If they do and players start to drop, it's going to be interesting what happens around 4 with the Patriots, 5 with the Jaguars, and then it's a domino effect from there. I wish everybody good luck. Obviously, this is live from Green Bay this season. Round 1 will be April 24th at 8 p.m. Rounds 2 and 3 will be April 26th at 7 p.m. And then rounds 4 through 7 will be April 26th starting at noon. So, A lot of good kids are going to get drafted. A lot of, careers are going to get springboarded from here. The talent up at the top of the draft isn't as strong as it was. Your 2 through 4 rounds are going to make or break a lot of teams this year. I want to see the Patriots draft better than they have been. New coaching staff from last year. Obviously, Gerard Mayo didn't keep his job, but Mike Vrabel and Elliott Wolf really need to get this right this year. There's a chance the Patriots can make the playoffs again. They just need to do this right as far as drafting. I think they should just get as many bodies as possible and throw them all in there and see how many can really work out. You're too dependent on too many single players to do a lot of work. Drake May had to do a lot of work when he came in. So now if you get on that offensive line, throw some bodies up there, get him proper protection, let's see what he can do. I want to thank everybody for listening to Loftside Banter. There's going to be a couple of other episodes coming out, one on Saturday as normal, and then we'll have another one to wrap up the Bruins season. Had a great conversation with Dan and his wife Christina, who are Bruins season ticket holders, and really where that team needs to go as well. And then we're going to start getting into a lot of off-season stuff with NFL. Obviously, after the draft, it starts to pick up a little bit more. And then we'll really start to talk to the Massachusetts Pirates. Again, we have a lot of exciting things coming, so please, www.loftsidebanter.com, loftsidebanter@gmail.com. Please let me know what you think your team's going to do. And then we're looking for a lot of people that want to come on and talk. So if we have some people that want to give some opinions on some other teams out there, let me know, and we can try to set something up. All right, everybody, no matter where you are, have a good morning, good evening, good night. And have a good